Good afternoon. Welcome to my presentation for our Week 3 Discussion 1 post. My name is J.Speedy, and this is What Stands in the Way. Just to reiterate from last week, the public policy that I would like to see changed is mandatory threat assessment teams and training for each school district across the United States. So what barriers do exist for this type of public policy? We see the barriers existing of funding, staffing, training, and awareness. As with most public policy barriers, funding rises to the top of the list. As you can imagine, funding a multidisciplinary team for each school district or region in a state would cost a lot of time and money. Team members would need to be trained and compensated for their after normal shift times. For example, the estimated cost to implement a threat assessment system in Oregon is $2 million a year, according to the OSBA in 2017. Another way to illustrate this is threat assessment manager salaries range from $143,000 a year to nearly $200,000 a year in Burbank, California, according to Salary.com 2022. And another potential barrier for this policy includes staffing the necessary positions to make up the multidisciplinary team. Threat assessment teams should include a school administrator, school psychologist or social worker, an SRO, and others such as HR, legal counsel, ad hoc members like special ed case managers, key gatekeepers like teachers or nurses or coaches even. And this doesn't include any external hires that a school district may want to do, such as threat assessment management specialists and independent medical or psychological evaluators. Our third barrier is training team members. Training can take many forms, but specialized training developed by the Secret Service and the FBI is an excellent first step with continuous training, such as tabletop exercises, legal training, and even quarterly or monthly reviews of handled cases, according to United Educators 2022. And finally, the National Institute of Justice has also discussed the lack of general awareness behind the purpose of threat assessment teams is still a pertinent barrier for further implementation, and that is Michaelis et al. 2019. The author argues that people who do not understand the concept of threat assessment are not likely to buy into it, and therefore the effectiveness of threat assessment teams will be limited. Further, this can extend to accessing records outside of school, such as medical records, wherein medical staff and personnel are not privy to threat assessment team protocol. And so since it hasn't risen to the level of emergency, medical record keepers may not want to disclose any sort of medical records despite the purpose of threat assessment teams. So the ways that we can overcome these barriers include grants and fund reallocation, such as taking funds from school security measures that have been demonstrated to lack effectiveness, such as placing more security cameras on the grounds, and utilizing grants from places like the Department of Homeland Security, which you can apply for each year, as well as the Department of Justice, to fund these programs. The staffing barrier is also linked to the other barriers. So educating staff and community members on the need for threat assessment teams and presenting peer-reviewed findings on their efficacy may bring awareness to the cruciality of the issue. Additionally, providing adequate salary compensation for the extra hours employees will be spending as they train and assess threats will make positions on the team more reasonable, more apt to be filled. Also, researching targeted training at individual school or district levels rather than statewide sessions has been found to be most effective, according to the National Institute of Justice. There are many training companies out there and many programs that you can look into, such as the Salem-Kaiser model. The state of Virginia has their own model, and so does Colorado. Finally, spreading awareness regarding the purpose of threat assessment teams can be done through local media, school board meetings, and word of mouth. Keeping the community on the same page moving forward can bolster the policy and provide more funding when the public understands the need and evidence of effectiveness for threat assessment teams. And that concludes my presentation for this week. If you're interested in checking out my references, they are on the discussion post page. Thank you for listening in. I do apologize for the lack of video. I'm still having some issues with bright lights, so I'm currently shrouded in darkness, and that makes for a very odd looking video. Thank you and have a great week.